It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. We recently received an email request to review an article that was published by Rita Amaral back in January. And on the surface, the article looks great, so I thought I'd read into it and share with you. The title of the article is How to Live the Agile Manifesto. So she kicks off and says, all companies want to be agile. It's like the new sexy word, isn't it? Well, yeah, it kind of is. Just it's not new. It's been around for a long time, but people are looking at it as the new disruptive word. So it is the same as startups that want to be disruptive. It's a buzzword, but what does it really mean? Good question. In a dictionary, it means able to move your body quickly and easily. Well, that's a definition I haven't seen before, but I'm sure it does. So you move or act quickly and easily. Is your company an acrobat if it is agile? In all seriousness, the Agile Manifesto is a Bible for everyone who is starting their agile journey, either through Scrum training or when a company is streamlining their processes. The manifesto is pretty simple in words. But when you're starting to implement it, problems arise. The solutions may be to attentively read it and put a context into practice. All right. So we all have read the Agile Manifesto before, and Rita, you've done a good job introducing, and I kind of see where you're taking this story, and I like it. I like where you're taking this post. So I'm guessing next we're going to go through and talk about each of the different lines. And we do, sure. So let's start with individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It says, focus on the people who are doing the work. In tech companies and non tech companies, there's always a person involved. When a mistake is made, when an idea is discussed, when a feature is a success, there's a person behind it. This worker is an intelligent, creative, and responsible adult, or so we believe. So it needs to have the freedom and power to deliver the best results that he or she can. They need more coaching and less micromanaging when things don't go their way. They need an environment where they feel safe to fail, congratulate their efforts, provide constructive feedback to improve, and move out of the way so they can pivot. Interactions are also important. Who does what, how it's going to be done, what will be done, all are important, but is a meeting effective because it happened or because the people in it were the right ones? Promote the individuals, not the number of interactions. Let them organize to create the best work. Okay, I like it. I think it's a little how should I put it, whiplashy. It takes you to one side then the other really really quick. But I definitely feel like you brought up two good points here. Creating an environment of psychological safety where they're safe to fail and congratulating people for their efforts and celebrating success. Now, one thing I don't do is I don't believe in participation trophies. So when they succeed, we celebrate. When they fail, we improve. But if it's just them putting in a noble effort, there's no participation trophies issued for that. All right, she goes on to the second one, working software for comprehensive documentation. Just build it and then learn how to do it better. Ooh, I like that. In an ever changing world, we like to minimize risks. Sometimes we get caught up in how this will be documented or trying to find every scenario possible. It's better for us to have a practical solution. Sometimes you need to start small, and then the users will decide if they want more of it. However, documentation is still a very important piece, even more when you have a working when we're in a working or when we are working in a remote environment. Still, write about features, releases, and problems, but don't waste too much time on the details. Requirements will emerge through time, and users' feedback will give you plenty of things to work on in a document. Okay, I like where you went here. Documentation is important, but I think sometimes people look at the documentation to the input of the process instead of documentation being the output of the process that allows us to align, adjust, pivot, and do all the things we need to do in order to help organizations and individuals be successful. So for me, I always say focus on the outcome and the impact that outcome arises instead of always focusing on the output. I don't care how many lines of code you wrote or how many cans of Mountain Dew you drank or bottles. What I do care about is that you are building things that yield a positive outcome with as little output as possible. And the whole goal is to reach happy customers. And we all know that. It's just, I'm not trying to repeat myself, but I think it's important to note that sometimes people don't think that way. Okay. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Just follow the feedback. I already can tell like where this one's going. So one of the key aspects of agile mindset is to be flexible with your plan, but stubborn on the goals. Ooh. So, if it is important to follow contractual obligations, but it is more important to seek collaboration solutions when problems arise through development or with stakeholders. Think less about you're providing a service. All right, here we go. Think less about you're providing a service, but you're building a relationship with the user. Okay, that makes sense. The client can provide you extremely useful feedback to the software because it needs to solve his or her problems. Once again, I love it. Always talk with the customer on what you agreed upon and be ready to change some plans as long as you're keeping good business relationships with the clients. The wording in this one, I'm not going to be a grammar smith here, confused me a little. I had to read it a couple of times. But what I can tell you is yes, that too often we find ourselves so stuck on the letter of the law. The contract says we'll build this. In order to change it, we have to put in a formal change request and a document. It's going to cost you more money and we don't know what to do. By the time you explain all this and get it out, you could have just many times made the small change the person was asking for. Or even created an environment where we embrace and welcome change as long as it's not disruptive to other items. And I think sometimes, even if it is disruptive to other items, we need to create a way for people to have a visual indicator, something that they can look at every day, like a red light, green light report that shows them these are the things that are in process and that are definitely going to be good to go in line and within our range of achieving with given the given timeline and budget. And then we have these yellows that are at risk and these reds that won't be done. But if you can create a green, yellow, red report, it's going to help you really be able to visualize these things. And I think that it also encourages collaboration because I'll tell you what, sometimes that next new thing the customer thinks of is a better idea than the one they originally thought of. So trying to enforce or force a customer to stick to the original plan really can be harmful sometimes, unless, of course, it's detrimental near the end of a release to not go willy nilly changing everything, knowing that there's always an opportunity for a point release or another release after where we can make those adjustments or changes. Okay. Finally, responding to change over following a plan. In the book, Team of Teams, General Stanley McChrystal argues that efficiency remains important, but the ability to adapt to complexity and continual change has become imperative. The group who wrote the Agile Manifesto back in 2001 knew this. If requirements are outdated or no longer serve to fix a problem the user is facing, even if it's on the plan, you should have the liberty to change it. When a feature on a roadmap, when a feature's on a roadmap, but its importance was low graded because of the client's needs, you should be able to change and create a better plan. That's what most companies like about roadmaps instead of plans. Roadmaps can have multiple options to reach the same destination. That's the flexibility we're looking for. I think my favorite part about this whole section is her definition of a roadmap. That if you think about it, even if you use a tool like Google Maps or Waze, what's going to happen is when you put in your destination that you're trying to get to, it'll present you with 3 or 4 different routes to get there, and they each take different amounts of time, but some of them are more pleasant than the others are, right? So I think it's just important for us to look at how we respond to change. And I'll throw this last quote in there. There was a guy by the name of Mike Tyson who said, "Everybody's got a plan until you punched in the face." In which case, if you get punched in the face by Mike Tyson, your next plan should probably be darkness anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is that dude still got it. The point I'm trying to make is just plans are important, but the ability to pivot is more important. You need to know how to follow a plan and how to understand and how to structure a plan, but you also need to understand that when new things arise or when needs arise, that it is opportunity for you to pivot. And every time something new arises, doesn't mean you have to pivot. You have to carefully analyze and look through all the things that have come through and decide which things warrant a pivot. If it does correctly warrant a pivot, make it happen. If it doesn't correctly warrant a pivot, make sure you document so you don't lose the idea, but then move on, move past the idea and keep going in general direction. Because what I can tell you is that even though we don't all make perfect plans, I wish we did, we can perfectly adjust to the plans as we go. That's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.